I think we're so fearful of dementia because we hear that rates are escalating, that there is nothing we can do about it, that you just get your affairs in order, that it's twice as common in women as in men, that it is the leading cause of death in Australian women, and that it sucks away your personality, your quality of life, your ability to function, and it affects everyone around you as well. And I'd like to say that there is so much we can do to slow progression even after a diagnosis. There have even been cases of reversal, but most importantly, we can massively reduce our risk. The official number is you can reduce your risk of Alzheimer's and other dementias by 40%. I would double that number with lifestyle choices. As an ageing population, the crucial things that can prevent or reduce your risk of dementia are, number one, recognising that how you live your life matters. So number one, knowing that what you do, what you eat, what you think, what you believe matters. The first thing is to cultivate a positive attitude towards ageing. Our anti-ageing society, everything is anti-ageing. Anti-ageing cream, anti-ageing food, anti-ageing supplement. It implies that ageing is a bad thing. Ageing is a great thing when you think of the alternative. So let's start by being grateful that we got to the age we are, starting the day with counting our blessings. This sounds trivial, but having that positive attitude to ageing has actually been found, all other things being equal, looking at ruling out smoking, high blood pressure, other known risk factors for not ageing well. Having a positive attitude to ageing will lengthen your life by 7.5 years. This is great news. It means you don't have to worry about all those whinges in your life. They'll be dead long before you. So number one, count your blessings. Focus on what you gain as you age, experience, wisdom, more time and freedom, rather than all the things you're losing. But secondly, keep physically active, mentally active, and socially stimulated. Just 20 to 30 minutes of moderate physical exercise a day, a brisk walk, a swim, a cycle, a dance class, halves your risk of dementia. 30 minutes a day. But you've got to work up to a bit of a sweat. You've got to be a bit breathless. You can't be able to sing along to the music. You're not working hard enough. Secondly, do not allow your muscles to waste away. From our mid-30s onwards, we lose about 5 to 8% of our muscle mass every decade. So by the time we're 70, if we've done no strength training, we could lose 1/5 of our muscles. This is lethal, not only because losing muscle means we're more frail, we're more likely to have falls. If we fall, we're more likely to fracture a hip. So that in itself is going to hasten our journey to the grave. But we've actually now discovered that weak muscles actually reflect a weak mind. Your hand grip strength reflects your overall strength, and the stronger your hand grip strength, the better you perform in memory tests, the better your processing speed, the more effective you are in problem solving. So do some form of strength training. Ideally, you pump some weights or get a personal trainer, but you can do it at home. Do squats, do push-ups against the wall, Google ways to strength training using my own body weight. There is so much we can do. So that's the physical exercise. Stay mentally stimulated. Maintain an attitude of curiosity, lifelong active learning. Here's the thing. Crosswords and Sudoku puzzles are only good for you if you are good at them. If you are not good at them, you've got to give yourself challenges. People will say to me, my relative was really smart, was a physicist, could do amazing academic things and still ended up with dementia. They didn't do things that took them out of their comfort zone, perhaps. You actually have to find things difficult. It's not the achievement that matters, it's the process of learning. So never stop learning. And arguably the most important thing is to have good relationships. Loneliness is as damaging as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And cigarette smoking raises your risk of dementia by 70%. But having good relationships, a confidant, feeling part of a community, even just having short conversations with your greengrocer or your fishmonger or the person at the post office, all of these things strengthen our immune system, lower our cortisol, stress level hormone, and reduce our risk of dementia massively. Good relationships on their own halve your risk of dementia. Okay, so simple tweaks to our diet. Let's start with that. Number one, put this in your mind and memorise it. Every soft drink is a bullet to our brain. Why? because sugar is actually toxic to our brain. Sugar is a molecule made up of fructose and glucose. The fructose molecule actually enters the brain, slows down processing speed, can affect our genes in the hippocampus and the hypothalamus, which are two really important brain regions. The hippocampus for learning and memory, the hypothalamus regulates our circadian rhythm and all our hormones. Sugar damages those two areas of the brain, leads to the buildup of toxic byproducts like uric acid, you don't want that in your brain, and it depletes brain cells of energy. This is lethal. That is one of the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease and other neurodegenerative diseases and dementias, not having enough energy in your brain. And a hit of sugar rapidly from a can of soft drink is literally like machine gun fire to our brain. So that's the first thing I would quit. Secondly, juices aren't a lot better. Yes, they've got vitamin C and a few minerals, but juices also deliver a rapid hit of sugar to our brain. So, you know, really cut down on fruit juices. And in general, eating sugary treats, sweets, we need to stop calling sugar a treat and call it a toxin. I'm not saying never eat sugar, but birthdays happen once a year for a reason. Christmas and Easter happen once a year for a reason. Save, you know, rich sugary foods for sometimes throughout the year. And if we do that, people come back to me and say, you know, I enjoy it so much more, because if we have something every day, it's no longer interesting. Anyway, we've lost the art of anticipation that we get from only doing things infrequently. And my fundamental message about diet, just to wrap it up, is eat real whole food. It doesn't matter if you're vegan, vegetarian, omnivore or carnivore, as long as you eat food that is from the land, from the sea, from the sky or from a tree. Not from a packet, not from a tin. If it comes in a box, I'd throw it in the bin. Of course, it is more nuanced than this, but if in doubt, give the product a miss. So just processed and ultra-processed foods, keep them out of your trolley as much as possible. As for physical exercise, I'll give you 3 really important guidelines. Number 1, get out there for that 20, 30-minute brisk walk or cycle or swim or dance every day. Now, if you can't manage 20 to 30 minutes a day, even 20 to 30 seconds of high intensity, run up those stairs, you know, run down the road to catch the bus, you know, vigorously unload your shopping. Just doing 20 to 30 second exercise snacks can also fire up your brain cells. So any amount of exercise is going to be positive, even if you can't get in that full 20 to 30 minutes. Secondly, and the faster you walk, the longer you live. Walking speed has been associated with longevity and cognition because the speed of walking reflects how all our organs are working. So here's if you're over 65, your goal is to be able to walk 1 kilometre in under 16 minutes. So 1 kilometre in quarter of an hour or 360 metres in 6 minutes. If you can do that, you have halved your risk of heart disease, and what's good for the heart is good for the brain. Now, strength training is also critical. So do any form, do push-ups, squats, lunges, as I said, do any form of strength training that you can, because we've engineered muscle building out of our lives. We no longer even hang up the washing, we just throw it into the dryer. So the less manual labour, the more we need to work on maintaining muscle strength. Talk to your personal trainer or physiotherapist or go to a gym. There are lots of strength training classes out there. Pilates, yoga, or just getting some weights and doing it at home. And thirdly, balance. Practice standing on one leg for 30 to 60 seconds with your eyes closed, because balance is controlled by a region of the brain called the cerebellum. It sits in the back here. And the cerebellum also regulates our thoughts and emotions. And we've noticed that people with dementia, schizophrenia, depression, a lot of mental health conditions and neurodegenerative diseases have poor balance. Improving balance, because the two are connected, balance and thought regulation are connected, improving balance can improve cognition, mood, mental health. Who would have thought? The reason physical exercise is so important is because there is communication between our muscles and our brain. Now, the public is everyone's well aware of the communication between our gut and our brain. What we haven't put across is the fact that there is a lot of communication between our muscles and our brain. So whenever we move our muscles, they release chemicals called myokines. These circulate in our blood and actually keep all our organs healthy. And most importantly, in relation to the brain, whenever we exercise, whether it's strength training, whether it's aerobic exercise, the brain produces a chemical called BDNF. It stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And this chemical acts like a fertilizer for brain cells. It actually stimulates the production of new brain cells and connections between brain cells. And studies in the US have actually found that a lot of schools are getting kids to do a 1 mile walk or run or jog before all their exams and hard subjects. They do that, they either run it or jog it or brisk walk it, depending on their fitness. Doing that piece of exercise before an exam raises academic scores because of the chemical changes in our brain when we move. So that's why exercise is so critically important. The first thing I want to say is, unfortunately, our alcohol guidelines are not strict enough if you really want to have optimal brain health. The Canadian guidelines have now admitted that the optimal level of alcohol consumption is 0. That doesn't mean that having a glass of wine every so often is going to give you dementia. That's not what I'm saying. But it appears that what the studies are now showing, that up to 4 standard Australian drinks a week is probably not going to make much difference, but over 4 standard Australian drinks per week starts to shrink our brain and increase our risk of Alzheimer's disease. So just make an informed choice. Our guidelines say, 2 standard drinks a day for men, 1 standard drink, or 1.5 a day for women. That is way too lenient if you want to reduce your risk of dementia significantly. Dental health is critically important to overall health, but in particular in relation to the brain, because the bacteria causing gum disease called Porphyromonas gingivalis can actually travel to the brain and damage areas involved in memory and learning, particularly a region called the hippocampus. So if you have bleeding, receding, sore gums or problems with your teeth, get them treated. Brush and floss your teeth every day. I floss after every meal. I think it's really important. The good news is that Melbourne researchers are developing trialling a vaccine against the bacteria, and they're developing drugs to neutralise the damaging toxins it produces, but they're a long way from being available. So it's up to us to visit the dentist on a regular basis, keep those teeth and gums really healthy. There are also some really simple things we can do that massively reduce our risk of dementia. Stimulate all our senses, and if you are suffering vision loss, get it treated. If you do have even mild hearing loss, get hearing aids or do what needs to be done to correct hearing loss, because untreated hearing loss, untreated vision loss massively increase your risk of dementia. And the one that we neglect the most is our sense of smell. Sense of smell is actually the sense that is most closely tied. When we lose our sense of smell, our memory starts to plummet. So keep your sense of smell stimulated, and they've actually done studies that you can do it in several ways. Take 4 smells that you really like and only spend 20 seconds a day just breathing in those scents. Peppermint, eucalyptus, lemon, lavender, rose, whatever you like. Stimulate your sense of smell every day. Now, the studies have actually found probably the most powerful way to improve your smell, and this has been directly linked to improving memory and scores of mental processing speed. Get a simple diffuser, essential oil diffuser. Put it by your bed. Choose whatever essential oil you like. Set the timer for 2 hours and have that diffuser going for 2 hours while you sleep. Change the smell regularly. That will stimulate your sense of smell while you sleep. You're reducing your risk of dementia while you sleep. And while we're on the topic of sleep, not getting enough sleep massively impairs cognition. What did Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher have in common? They both got Alzheimer's. Okay, they both had stressful jobs, but they both bragged about how little sleep they needed. And we now know that consistently, not the few hours, not the few years that you might have a toddler running around, but if for decades of our life we consistently get less than 6.5 hours sleep a night, 30% increased risk of dementia. Because during sleep, magic happens in our brain. It is when our brain detoxifies. The spaces between our brain cells expand, fluid called glymphatic fluid flows through our brain and actually washes out the toxins. If we're not sleeping long enough, there isn't enough time to clear the toxins from our brain. So it's absolutely critical to prioritise good quality sleep. Another thing to really watch out for, if you have obstructive sleep apnea that is not treated with a CPAP machine or a mandibular device, obstructive sleep apnea massively increases the risk of dementia. And here's a pro tip. Studies have actually found that learning to play the didgeridoo is actually as good as a CPAP machine for mild to moderate obstructive sleep apnea. So there you go. Just getting out of our comfort zone, not doing things on autopilot, taking normal daily habits and tweaking them a bit will have a positive impact on our brain. So a really good one is trying to become ambidextrous. Use your computer mouse with the opposite hand to usual. Brush your teeth with the opposite hand to usual. Even just pouring a cup of tea. If you're only ever doing it with one hand, it's like, oh, this feels a bit clumsy. Great. Anytime something challenges you, anytime you actually have to think about what you're doing or you find it difficult, it's a plus. It is actually stimulating the growth of new connections between brain cells. Another thing you could try and do, these are just some little tips. Have a shower with your eyes closed because you're using senses you're not in the habit of using. Regularly speak to people you don't know. Strike up conversations with strangers because we underestimate just how stimulating it is for our brain whenever we meet someone new and interact with them. If you drive to the same place every day, try and find a new route so you're not driving on autopilot. Find a new word in the dictionary at the start of each week. Weave it into your conversations. Even just listening to music that's different to what we're in the habit of listening to has the effect of boosting our brain. Now, if you're really time poor, here's a pro tip. You can do all this in one hit. Find someone you've never met before. Take them home with you via a new route. Invite them to have a shower with you, with your eyes closed, so it's fine. Use your new word in conversation with them and have weird music playing in the background. Your brain will love it. Your partner might not. A huge message I want to get across is poor health is not just a consequence of old age. So often, our culture talks us into ageing. So let me tell you about an amazing study. It was started in 1968. Researchers from Yale School of Public Health in the United States followed 386 healthy young adults with an average age of, they started at the age of 36. They followed them for 38 years. Now, at the start, they asked them how much they agreed or disagreed with 16 statements such as, old people are helpless. Things go downhill as you age. As you get old, you get increasing aches and pains. And they had to score from 1 to 5 how much they agreed or disagreed with these statements. Having scored their attitude to ageing, they tracked their health for the 38 years. So they looked at blood pressure and type 2 diabetes and smoking and family history. In that 38 years, 70% of people who strongly agreed with the negative statements about ageing had suffered a heart attack, stroke or some other serious cardiovascular event, compared with only 15% of people who didn't believe things would go downhill as they aged. That's a difference of 55% based on your beliefs. If there was a drug that reduced our risk of heart disease by 55%, we'd all be taking it. So I want to get the message across that you can have as sharp a mind at age 90 as at age 30. You've got, genes play a role, environment plays a role. We have, there are toxins out there, but if we do as much as we possibly can to make healthy choices every day, to maintain our joy for life, joy, laughter, they are also healing. Continue to set meaningful goals. If we give our brain a reason to stay sharp, it more likely will. If we give our body a reason to stay strong, it more likely will.
So much of it is about attitude as well.
So much is about attitude. I tell people, grow bolder, not older. Think of being welderly, not elderly. Don't ever say, I'm too old for that. It's poison for our brain. What simple tips I make every day? I ensure I get a good night's sleep. Obviously there are times you're travelling or certain work commitments, but as a general rule, I try and get 7 to 9 hours of sleep is what the average person needs. I'm most comfortable about 8, so I try and ensure adequate amount of sleep. When I wake up, the first thing I do is actually breath work. I haven't mentioned this, but breathwork has actually been found to improve cognition, and that simply means the important thing is slowing down our out breath. A breath exercise known as cyclic sighing has been shown to improve mood, lower anxiety, lower stress, make people less reactive. All you do is you breathe in, then when you think you've breathed in enough, you actually breathe in a little bit more. And then you breathe out. The key is breathe out as slowly as you possibly can. This is actually even more effective than mindfulness meditation in improving mood and lowering stress levels. Another good one is box breathing. Breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, breathe out for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts. So any kind of breath work where you're slowing your out breath is really powerful. The reason being, slow out breathing activates our vagus nerve, which is part of our parasympathetic nervous system. That's the rest and digest system. So it's the opposite of flight fright. That has been found to have positively correlated with good brain health. So sorry, that was a long tip, but practicing gratitude. The first thing I try and do, depending on the day, is get to the gym first thing in the morning. As I drive to the gym, I practice gratitude. I count my blessings. You know, I'm so grateful that I'm living in this wonderful country, that I have wonderful people in my life, just all the things you're grateful for. That creates a filter through which I see the world. I then see more things every day that I feel grateful for. Then I make sure I get, regular physical exercise. I alternate aerobic training, strength training, balance work, avoiding soft drinks, avoiding fruit juices, eating real whole food, cooking from scratch as much as possible, maintaining good relationships, connecting with a friend, several friends at least every day, making sure where I work, I have good relationships, good colleagues, keeping mentally stimulated, doing work that is mentally challenging, that I enjoy, and maintaining a sense of fun and laughter. Don't make health a chore. We need to rebrand health as something that is fun and exciting and fulfilling rather than something that is boring and missing out on the fun in life. That nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. And remembering joy, laughter, smiling, connecting with people we love, doing the things we love, they are all really, really powerful ways to keep our brain and body healthy.